Hi everyone, this is Aniketh Dsouza, and I've been actually doing a couple of videos on digital marketing and social media marketing, and uh, some of them requested me to share my part of the story. Now, I've actually shared the story to the people who I have met, but I've actually never spoken before on a video till date. So I thought let me just start off with that. And to begin with, I'll take you back to the time I graduated. The time I graduated was very similar to what we are going through right now. It was a recession, so this was back in 2009, and I graduated not from a larger city like Mumbai, where I am currently, but I graduated from a smaller city called Mangalore, which is a part of Karnataka. And uh, post graduation, I was looking out for a job. I looked up for a job in Mangalore itself initially, and I was interviewed. And at that point of interview, I just ended up getting into a call center. And I said, that's not me. That's not the kind of job I want. And immediately during the interview process itself, I said, that's not what I'm willing to do. And they asked me, what are you willing to do? And I said, I don't know. I really don't know what I want to really do. And That's when I said, saying that my passion is branding. I don't really like to get into sales, because for me, what I've seen sales in a small city like Mangalore is more door to door. I've never seen that kind of life where you have B2B. I do know that you need to have experience of sales, and you kind of do extremely well if you have the knowledge of how to sell. And I thought to myself that branding is something that I would like to get into, so that it kind of eases the process. So the next job option that I had was in Bangalore, and I was like, wow, okay, let me just try it out in a new city. So I looked up there all alone. I went over there for a day for the interview, and they just put me on the ground as well. Um, to basically go from door to door, do some sales. And I said, this is not me. So I told the person, saying that I'm not going to continue this. I understand this is the first day, but this is not me. So I wouldn't really be able to do this kind of a job. And that's when I decided, let me just head over to Mumbai and explore what's there. And I spoke to my family members at that point of time, and they said that, let's see, you come, stay in Mumbai, explore opportunities in Mumbai, and you might find something. And one thing I was really keen with was marketing, branding. In fact, my college project was also around branding. It was not sales, it was not marketing, but specifically hardcore branding. And I really enjoyed that. So when I basically came to Mumbai, this was 2009. I went for a couple of interviews, and on one of the calls with my sister-in-law's sister, who used to work for a large company abroad, she said, join, if you're so passionate about marketing, join an agency. Don't join a small size, because it's very risky in a small one. And don't join a large one, because there are too many processes. So ideally you could look at joining an agency which is a mid-size agency, because that's where you get to learn the most. You learn a lot in a shorter span of time. You learn pretty much everything. You get to learn not just your role, but you get to learn multiple people's role as well, because there's a lot of movement that happens. And when I mean movement, it's also based on attrition, right? So because there is a lot of movement, go through the whole process. So that's what I started doing. I looked up for agencies, I connected with agencies, I met people. Some of my family members also tried to help me out to find someone as well. So that was a plus point. But ultimately, it was the interview. So I had to meet people, I had to connect. And there were places I went and I said, okay, this is not for me. And it was primarily also because of the kind of payout. The payout was, I recollect the payout at that time in my city, in Mangalore, for MBAs was like 5K per month, or 5 to 6K per month. And I was like, I'm a graduate. How can I actually get a job? If MBAs get that, then graduates really have no hope. So when I came to Mumbai, the payout was somewhere around 10K. One of the large agencies offered me a 10K, and I was like, that's too low for me. So I settled in for an agency that was a mid-size, and I got a call for that. And I was like, okay, let me just join this agency. And the first time they told me, okay, what you're getting into, I had no clue. I said, okay, this is what I'm good at. I'm good at marketing. I'm good at finance. So just help me out with the job, because I've never had internship experience at that point of time. But what I did have was the ability to understand marketing. I understood accounting, which I was good at. I like statistics, and I was good at designing. So I used to do graphic design, website design. Those are things that I had actually learned as part of my graduation. So along with my graduation, I also did a part-time diploma in animation from one of the animation institutes out there. So I just told them, saying that this is what I can do. You tell me what's something that's possible. And they said, okay, we'll just join you onto our team. 15K would be the salary, and let's go ahead from there. And I said, all right, great. So let me just start off with that. And I remember the first few days. The moment I got my card, I was like, it was actually written as account executive. And I was like, okay, so would I be doing accounts? Would I be doing accounting? Not bad. It's okay to try, because I've been good at accounts anyways. So I've been good at accounts, I've been good at marketing, so it doesn't really matter for me. And uh, and then what happened was, once I got into the agency, I thought, saying that even if I basically get into accounts, I'm going to learn the other things that these people do, which is marketing, which is research. And the agency had a couple of teams within their organization. So I was like, okay, great. And immediately after that, I got to know that I was actually supposed to be servicing clients, or actually in the role of client servicing. So honestly, when I started off, I did not know any of these roles. Right now, these days, a lot of BMS graduates are already educated about what kind of roles that you have. But I didn't actually come from a BMS background. I actually came from a BBM, which is Bachelor in Business Management. We didn't really have this kind of exposure to what kind of roles exist in an agency, and how can you actually match your skills out there. So and that's when I started off. So after about 3 months to 6 months, I was like, okay, this is great, this is going great. The first 2 days were extremely bad. There were some episodes that happened, and I was shouted out as well. And I was like, this is my first job. Why are they actually shouting at me? um, and that's when slowly I started. I realized that I have to stick to the job, because it's very different. It's something that I do not really know. And the other thing that I did was, my parents also kind of supported me. They said, it's your first job, stick around, see and explore how that goes, but take your time. So that's what I did. I basically focused on my work, and then parallelly I started looking at also studying for GMAT. And when I did that, my story was, okay, I looked at exploring GMAT. So I ended up studying English. I improved on my English language. I improved on my math. I improved on most of these things. And by the time I kept giving exams, I started improving myself in terms of the way, in terms of the vocabulary, in terms of the math that's out there, the statistics that's out there, able to analyze stuff like that. And this apparently started helping me in my work as well. So I ended up working better. I ended up starting to think differently. Because of my logic reasoning tests that were there in GMAT, it also kind of made me, or kind of made me rethink on the kind of logic that was set in the whole system that was there at the company that I worked for, the agency that I worked for. And I was like, wow, let me just do this. And then I started looking at improvising. So The first stage was obviously the adapt, and then I basically moved into the improvisation stage. I have this philosophy that I've created for myself, which is adapt, improvise, and innovate. The idea is that the first time you join any organization, you need to adapt, and once your adaptation is complete, you end up getting into a stage which is a pause, which is like, okay, you're getting bored of your job, you don't really know what to do because there's nothing new, and that's the stage when most people tend to quit, and they quit because they don't have anything different, they don't learn anything different. What I did was I didn't move from it I moved from adapt to the next stage, which is improvise. And the improvise stage was primarily based on trying to tinker with the existing ways that I actually get things done and cut down on time. So if something was assigned to me, for which would take like 2 days, I ended up figuring out alternative ways. I looked up on the internet. I did my own research in my own time. I went home, I did a lot of research and figured out how I can do that 2 day work in 5 to 10 minutes. And when I did that, I had a lot more time. So what I did was, okay, I managed to handle that part of the workload for the agency, and then I moved on to the next step. I looked at, okay, I want to learn the next big thing. So client servicing was something I was doing, and then I moved slightly into PR, and then I moved slightly into getting being a part of a research team because they were pitching for another brand, and they had time for that. I also looked at working on presentations, 100 slides, 200 slides presentations for my team members. I ended up working late in office, sometimes to even 3 o'clock, 4 o'clock, because some of the clients required some kind of deliverables. And these are the times that at one moment it was completely alien to me. And when I heard that, okay, this is something that this is how agency works, but it's also fun. It's also the things that you actually get to do. And that's when I started improvising. I decided, saying that why should someone actually stay so long if I can actually help my team members? So what I did was, there was one of the activities that one of the tasks that the designers used to do over there, and they used to take a really long time. So I basically created another version of the same, and then I gave it to the designers. The same thing that would be done by 3 a.m. in the morning now was getting done at somewhere around 10:30 p.m. in the night. So the kind of time saving that I worked on is what I realized that, okay, that's what I'm good at, and I'm going to start improvising a lot of processes within the organization to kind of make them faster. And that was then my new mission. So my mission was, okay, I've adapted, next is improvise. I need to start figuring out what are the problems in this organization. So it kind of gave me that experience to go beyond what my own role was. And that's when after some time I received my first check, which was my appraisal, and it was like about 10% from what I was actually getting. And I was like, wow, not bad. I did not really ask for it. Now the simple reason is that when I was actually staying with the organization, I was focused more towards what I want to learn, and it was all about my capacity because I wanted to learn a lot. And it was totally about intent. It was all about, how do I basically know more? How do I go beyond my role, which is just client servicing, learn about PR, learn about different aspects. And then parallelly, there was something new that happened. So now I joined Facebook in 2007. This happened because one of the international athletes where I participated. So I'm a 4-time Asian Championship participant. I've represented India 4 times, including the Commonwealth Youth Games in Australia. And one of these guys when I had been to Macau had told me, saying that not Macau, one of these, Bangkok or one of these cities, had told me, saying that, I'm on Facebook, you can join me on Facebook. And I was like, okay, what is this? So he said, this is a social network. And that's when I took the initiative to actually join Facebook. This was 2007. And post that, I was actually active on the social network. So when this thing hit me in 2010 or so, I said, okay, let me look at promoting my brands, which the brands that I manage, at the agency online. So that's what I started doing. I started basically putting the brands online, and over like a period of 2 weeks, I told my boss saying that, hey, you know what, I think we can start promoting our brands online, and it's a good way to reach out to masses as well, because I'm getting a lot of interaction on my profile. At that point of time, Facebook did not really have Facebook pages. Now it has. So he said, we don't really promote brands for free, we charge them. So I said, okay, fine, all right. And then I stepped back. And then after about 3 to 4 months, the agency also started taking a lot more interest, sorry, in the social media space. And I was like, wow, now it's a good thing that that's happening. And some of the things that actually put me to an advantage over there was that social media as a space was completely new, and I realized that it was new not just to me, it was new to everybody in the industry, whoever is a marketer is going to come to zero and start from zero. So although they have that kind of experience of creating content and stuff like that, but at the end of it, it's all about all of them are going to start from zero and then move upwards. So I thought that's the best bet. It's never happened. It's going to be a once in a lifetime opportunity, and I was like, let's just do this. So that's when I decided, saying, let me take it a bit more seriously. I reached out to the agency head, and I said, saying that, you know what, let's basically put up a plan. I had another girl who was also interested in trying to get this plan of action together, and I said that, okay, let's get this thing sorted. So we started off with one of these brands, and it went on to become one of the best examples or case studies for other brands in that agency as well. So we ended up signing 4 accounts at the end of the year for social media marketing, and my CEO at that point of time was extremely happy with me. And he kind of announced it in front of everyone, saying that, this has happened. And I was like, okay, great. That means that we're going to start off our own digital team at the agency. And he said yes. And he told me, saying, okay, let's just start looking at expanding our team, because now that we have 4 clients, we will have to kind of service them. So I said, great. And that's when I started looking at people, and we started hiring people on board. And then I thought, saying, okay, it's time, I think I get a raise, maybe. So let me just look and ask, saying, what would be the raise like? But actually, before the raise happened, I had another person from another agency, one of the people who I used to interact online. So most of my learning comes from learning from experienced people in the international markets, and that's basically how I learned. I learned from people like Gary Vaynerchuk, who had just started at that point of time on digital. I learned from Simon Sinek. I learned from multiple people in the international space who were into marketing, and were also getting heavily into social media. This included Guy Kawasaki as well. So in fact, we were a part of interactions with the international forum, in terms of and actively participating on Twitter and Twitter conferences and stuff like that. I don't know if anyone does Twitter conferences, at least in India these days, but if you were to actually sit through one of our tutorials, I'm going to share that. And then what happened was, I moved into so I looked up this person. This founder came to me, and he said, okay, you know what, we can kind of get you into our company, into our agency, and I want you to basically handle your own team. And I was like, wow, not bad. It's quite a big agency. It's a well-known agency, and it's primarily into digital marketing. And he told me, saying, you just get into the managerial level. And I was quite excited. So, and when he told me, okay, what is the salary that you expect? I said, you tell me what would be the salary that I expect. He actually quoted me something that was 4 times my existing salary. He told me, saying, this is what your salary is going to be. And I was like, what? For a moment, I kind of thought, and I was actually shocked at that point of time. And I said, okay, I will get back to you, because what it also meant was that I have to actually shift from the place that I was, because I used to stay with my cousins, and then I have to actually move to a place, find a place on my own, and then basically move it to another place as well, and then commute from there. And that's when I realized, saying that okay, this is something interesting. Let me just get back to him. And then I went to my agency and I said, saying, this is what I'm getting offered in the market. And I recollect at that point of time my boss saying that, okay, we can't afford that right now, but if you're not convinced, then I think it's best that you leave, because no matter what you say, it's not going to change the fact that that kind of gap is very difficult to meet. So he kind of offered something lower, not very low, but you can say somewhat low. And I said, okay, fine. Then I think it's time to actually leave. I obviously had other reasons. I had someone on top of me as well. Um, I had somebody who had joined as somebody for business development and had a very extremely different thought process than I did. But it took me like about 6 years or 7 years after I left that agency to realize that she was right, I was wrong. Um, and maybe that I can cover it in another story, or you can connect with me directly for that to identify what was wrong. Um, so I'm from then I moved into this particular agency, and the new agency was much smaller, cramped up at that point of time. So I wasn't really keen. I could not really get motivated to work in that kind of environment. Although it had extremely large brands, it was not the kind of feel factor that I expected from an agency, in terms of the kind of cabin like structures or the kind of closed environment structures that I was never actually used to. And that's when I looked at, okay, I need to find something else. This is not something I want. Yes, it's exciting to be at the forefront, it's exciting to be working with large brands, but I cannot really work or learn more than just working on these large brands. And that's when I realized, saying that okay, let me move out, find something else. And that's when I got another opportunity. And the first thing, and one of my friends called me up and he said, are you looking for a job? And I said, yeah. So he told me, saying that okay, we have a role in our company. And the first thing I asked is, how is the office, how does the office even look? Because I like to basically work in a space that is open, structured, and because it allows me to think, it allows me to breathe freely. So that's personal. It's a personal preference. Not everybody is okay with that. Some of them are okay with that. Some of them, it doesn't really matter. For some people it's just the money, for some people it's just something else. So he said, no, it's a really cool office. It is open. It's a nice place to work. And that's when I joined them. And immediately when I actually went there, my interviews were in different places. My second interview, where I got a bump in salary for about, by a multiple of 4, I ended up having it over a cup of coffee, and that was my second job. And similarly, my third job again happened in one of the malls where the interview took place. It was never actually the interviews that happened face to face in the office. So for me, the problem was I did not know how the office actually looked. So the first thing I asked my friend was, okay, is the office looks good? And in this case, for this particular interview, I told the founder, saying that, you know what, you might have a good offer on the table for me, but first I want to come and have a look at your office. So that was the primary concern at that point of time. And I actually went to the office. I liked it, and I was like, okay, so let me just bid goodbye to these people and move on. And that's when I moved into the new agency, where I headed their company for about, you can say, about roughly about 1.5 to 3 years, where I learned beyond social media marketing. Primarily, I learned how to manage teams. I primarily learned, for the first time, I had to learn how to fire people, or actually, let's say, let go of people, because these are some things that I never wanted to do. I really did not want to kind of be the bad guy, and the agency made me, or prepared me for a position to be like that. which was a learning. And it was like, okay, once I started looking out, figured out how to kind of let go of people, I could let go of people on a continuous basis as well. It's just that, yeah, I had to take a couple of permissions, couple of approval processes, but that's fine. As long as if the work is hampered, then you will have to let go of certain people. Depends on the extent of how much the work is hampered. And that's where it kind of went to the next stage when one of my earlier clients asked me, saying that, hey, you know what, why don't you just manage our brand, and we'll back you up. So I said, okay, fine. I moved on to a consulting role because it wasn't directly clashing with the agency role as well. And that's when I moved out. So then I started managing this particular client, who was a large retail brand. And then along with that, after about 6 months time, I got another hotel brand on board, and this was a large hotel group. And then I consulted for them. I did a couple of tutorials, couple of training sessions in Jaipur. And then based on post that, I started reaching out to more brands as well. But along with that, after some time, I ended up, also going full time into the agency. Although I was consulting for some time, and then the agency said, okay, you know what, we'll bring you back if you're not going to do anything on the remaining days, if you're just handling these clients and you have extremely less work. So I said, okay, I can kind of manage both. It's not too much of a task. And they said, okay, yeah, you continue with this, and you can continue with your clients as well. And I said, all right, no problem with me. And because I can definitely manage a team. And over a period of time, when I started having the additional pressure of more clients asking me to start off, I said, saying that I wouldn't be able to manage both of them. I will either have to start off on my own, or say bye to these clients who already believe in me. And that's when I decided, saying, let me take the next step, let me start off. And that's how Mindstorm started. So Mindstorm is the agency. We started off somewhere in 2014, later half of 2014. And since then, it's been a crazy ride. It's been a lot of ups and downs. In terms of how the business is, it's primarily structured in a way that we have local clients, we've got global clients, we've got clients handled across countries. In fact, we also handle social media marketing in multiple languages. We run contests in multiple languages right now. We have handled interactions in multiple languages. We've got a translation team on board who can translate in like 92 different languages. So I think in terms of being able to manage social media marketing in multiple languages, I think we're kind of sorted on that front. With reference, and we've put in systems. So initially it was all about a flat structure, an extremely flat structure, where everybody used to report to me, and I used to kind of teach them myself. And now over a period of time, we moved into a different hierarchy structure, where I basically look at the marketing part or the business development part, whereas then there is an operations team in place, led by the operations director as well. And over a period of time, what happened is, most of the learnings that I could actually provide, I did used to provide manually one-on-one. And over a period of time, a lot of people started leaving. In fact, I remember this, that one of the employees told me, saying that I teach a lot and there's a lot to learn, and that's the reason why I can't really continue with the organization. And I was like, a lot of people actually join companies primarily because they want to learn something new. And this was one person who told me, saying that it's too much to learn, and because it's too much to learn, I want to quit. And then I was like, okay, all right. And then that's the moment that I realized, saying that not everybody has the same passion that I have to kind of build brands out there. And because they don't really have the passion, they will end up in being in those roles for a good 3 to 4 years, 5 years. Because for me to actually move into the role that I was on in 2014, it took me from just 2009 to 2014. 2009, I had nothing. I came to Mumbai without a job, I found a job in an ad agency. I moved up the ladder. I improvised. I innovated. I tried something new. And then I basically was the director of my own company in 2014. And we've still stabilized until 2020. We are on an upward curve. We have already passed the survival stage of the agency as well. And there was this person who told me saying that it's too much to learn, and that's the reason I want to move on. And that's when I realized saying that there are going to be people out there who are not willing to learn, and there are going to be people who out there who are willing to learn. And the ones who are not willing to learn will move extremely slow, and the ones who are willing to learn will move extremely fast, and the ones who are willing to not learn will move extremely slow. And that's the reason why some people end up being a copywriter for maybe like 3 years, 5 years. Some of them there are at 10 years as well. But then there is that level of point where, beyond a certain point, your salary doesn't grow at all because you're doing a specific role. So similarly, you have some people who end up becoming, okay, from copywriters, they move into freelancers. Otherwise, on the other hand, you move into different roles. And I was like, that's not what I want to be. I want to be somebody who owns a business, and not just one business. I want to own multiple business. That's my dream. I don't want a single stream of income, and I want to look at multiple streams of income as well. And that was my approach. I was looking at, okay, this is one thing, and was this person who tells me saying that they don't want to learn. I have also been the person who has been, staying late, trying to basically teach them. And when a line like this came to me, I was taken aback, and I started reflecting upon myself. Why am I actually doing this? Why am I teaching people? Actually, I can just get somebody out there who will be directly under me as a reporting to me, who will basically get the people to do the job. I don't really need to teach anyone. I remember this, that because two to three of the people who I had initially trained myself ended up starting their own companies. Why? Because they got a training in everything. They got a training in Photoshop, design, copywriting, how do you write for social media, how do you basically advertise, pretty much everything. But when we moved over a few years, I realized that a lot of people do not want to learn. And that's when I took up the next step, where we decided, okay, this is it. We're going to stop the one-on-one training, because a lot of people will tend to quit. Some people do not want to learn. Some people want to just do the jobs that they are assigned to, and they will always move for, a raise that is maybe like 2,000 more, 3,000 more, 5,000 more, 6,000 more. That's it. They will not move for raises, or they will not be interested in actually building their value to an extent to grow like 4 times your value, because that's how I grew. I grew 4 times my value. And that was how my jobs were moved, right? So I moved from whatever I was earning to 4 times, and then that kind of doubled as well. So that's basically how my growth path was. But and this is something that I remember back in the college days, my principal had told me, saying that a lot of people will always move at 3,000, 4,000, 5,000. And these people who kind of move at 3,000, 4,000, they will end up being there itself, because that's all they are looking for. They're looking for a small increment and doing the same job. They're not willing to do anything different. They're willing to do the same job. Within a span of 5 years, your job will change. Your job will be completely out. At that point of time, you will have absolutely no way to kind of innovate or improvise, because you're already tired. You're already kind of comfortable with your job, and it's something that you've not really thought of. And that's the reason with that gap of moving just with 3,000 or 4,000 more. Yes, it looks good, it looks interesting, but then what you're trying to do is you're trying to be comfortable. You're not trying to basically go leaps and bounds or grow leaps and bounds. So I basically stopped. I've kind of forced myself to stop teaching people directly. And I realized that there are going to be people who want to learn as well, who want to learn either from me, and I've had people who were telling me, saying that, okay, I've learned something in 1 month, which I have learned in my previous agency for like 7 to 8 months. That's the kind of learning. I've learned a lot more in this 1 month. I've also had somebody who came and told me, saying that I've been to the UK, and I studied there in digital marketing for a whole year, and what I learned at Mindstorm in like 2 to 3 weeks is more than what they learned in the UK for about a year. and that's the kind of learning curve that you will have, because what when I am trying to teach you, what I teach is I simplify things which are which is over a period of 10 years, and I crunch that and make it into a package to basically explain it to you as to how things work, and in a way that you can actually understand, because this is all a curation of my learning, right? So that's basically what you get to learn, and that's how I teach. So what I realized was, okay, if I've got to teach someone, I've got to teach someone who is really interested in the role, in growing themselves functionally, and I want to only teach the people who are interested to learn from me, and not the ones who are not really interested. And the question was, how do I do that? So in 2020, it kind of dawned on me, saying that I think it is high time that I actually started doing my own course. So yes, I've also started. So along with Mindstorm agency, in the same year, I started another website called worldsbestcasestudies.com. It's got about 300 plus case studies. It was actually created for myself. I created because I was selfish, and I wanted to keep all the case studies for myself. And then I realized, saying that, okay, why not? Most of the other marketers in the industry, brand marketers, everybody else would also be interested to kind of see it. And since I had the skill to actually develop a website, I deployed a website in place. In 2020, I kind of I thought about this process of being able to teach people who are interested to learn from me, and who are interested to learn much faster. And that's where I thought, saying that let me just do that. Let me just come up with a series of videos where you can actually learn from my experience over the past 11 years. So that's basically the idea of Xavier's Academy, and that xaviersacademy.com is the site. The site is still in the works. It should be completed shortly, and that's basically the I can say it's the overall gist of my story. So besides that, if you were to actually Google me out, you can Google me. I also have another domain called aniketh.com. It's another big story altogether itself, where how I basically got it from Russian hoarders. I can tell it to you sometime else. Then there are other stories of my past, which is even before I basically got into or graduated. I've been an international athlete. I gave you a gist of it in this video as well. So as an international athlete, I've also been among the top 100 students, being invited by the Prime Minister for the Republic Day ceremonies. There are a lot of other achievements as well that I've had, and that's going to be through another story. But altogether, at the end of it, the kind of learnings that I've actually received from either it's my sports career, my parents, as well as all my mentors that I've had, I think that's how I've basically been shaped up, and that's the kind of motivation I've received from everyone. So that's basically the end of my story. I look forward to hearing yours. Feel free to share that. Make a video like this, and share those stories with me as well. And currently we are going through a recession as well, and I understand that, but you don't really have to worry about it. What you need to focus on during a recession is that you need to look at improving your skills in a way that other people actually want you. So start thinking pull marketing, and pull market yourself. You need to basically be out there and telling people, showing people, if you were to do this, have you really tried this? This is an approach that you could try, and that's when they'll start looking up to you. So that's an interesting way to start, and you can actually get that going as well. All right, see you then, probably in another video. All right.